Hey, Wall Street winners. It is Friday, March 15th, and it's a midday or early afternoon update. It's 1:21 Eastern Time, and I just wanted to follow up on a few items from this morning. So one of the stocks that I mentioned in the pre-market update video this morning was Adobe, and what you'll see here on the screen is Adobe seems to have found its baseline and really hasn't done a lot today other than hover down by that baseline down about $80, $79 and change, which is 13.88% according to Yahoo Finance here. So we're probably seeing that this could indicate that it's a new resistance level at 490, 491. So it's highly likely that in the next week, there'll be a bit of a recovery. For Adobe to come out with better than expected earnings, even though it had a weaker forecast into Q2 and be off 14%, it's not likely it's going to stick down at this level. And where we can see that in another stock that had similarly, maybe similar earnings results, but earlier in the quarter is Palo Alto. And if we look at the 1 month here, back to February 20th or thereabouts when it released earnings, it dropped from 370 down to the 268, 270. So basically dropped $100 or $95 that day. And then what you'll see is that kind of became its new resistance level. Now it did drop a little bit more than that. So maybe another $10 drop-ish is in the bag, or is maybe something you can count on for Adobe. So maybe it'll go down another $10. But then since then, it climbed up and recovered. Not all the way, mind you. I mean, but it climbed back up to 322, down from, let's call it 262, which is a good $60 recovery. So 2/3, and then it started to decline again, and now it's down around that 280 mark, which is still, say, $10 to $15 higher than it was when it bottomed on earnings or after earnings, and a little higher, maybe $22 higher than when it ultimately bottomed just a few days later on, or a day later, I guess, here on February 21st. So what I would expect from Adobe is something similar. And so if you wanted to get into Adobe to get back in on a bit of an uptick, you might want to put some money into that today, but then look at that over the next 3 to 5 days, maybe even just Monday, Tuesday, depending on how the markets react. And if it does drop another $5 to $10, you're probably looking at a bottom there. And then there should be some significant upside in the next 30 days. So that would be a great position to enter today or next week at a lower rate, maybe a partial entry today and a partial entry next week. The other one that's setting up well for next week is NVDA. And as we know, NVIDIA has been on a roller coaster ride. It opened way down today at $865. It's recovered and is now up almost $11 today at $890. It was definitely in the high 900s in the last week or so, back on, let's say, probably here about March 7th, I'm assuming, is what we're looking at on the chart here. For some reason, it won't follow along. There it is. So March 8th. So March 8th, it got up to the 960, 970 range and hit its all-time high. But it's now pulled back and corrected over the course of the last 5 days. You can see that spike there is your peak up into the high 900s. Can't get it to, there we go, 19 there. So the peak was before that. But nevertheless, it's now looking into next week. It has a big conference or industry event, company event, where it's releasing or talking about some of its new chip technology. And I think that with that event, which I believe is Monday or Tuesday of next week, I think you're going to see some positive news and some more excitement come out around NVIDIA. And I think it's likely going to move back into the $900 range and recover from what it's been doing this week as it dipped down into the 860, maybe even 850 at some point kind of range. So I think that today, even with it up 1.54% at 888, it's probably a pretty attractive price to get in at. Again, you could approach it the same as you would the Adobe, maybe get in a little bit into a position today, a small position, and then look at growing that position next week if it does start to show signs of a positive uptick and a turnaround based upon some of these announcements coming out of NVIDIA. The last thing I want to touch upon today isn't technology, but oil. And what you'll see here is one of our faves, Valero. It's just going, saying it's going to the moon might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's definitely doing well. I mean, a 3% gain on any one day is a great gain. And this is a stock that came off a $10 gain the other day. So if we look at the 5-day on this, it is a bit of a rocket ship there. With a lift on Wednesday that took it from 152 up to 158, 160. And then today, starting out pre-market at 159 and now up to basically 164 and a half, 165. So this stock has exploded upwards based upon all the things going on with the price of crude, which is on the uptick, generally speaking, and then some of the events over in Russia with the drone attacks from the Ukraine. So that's where we are today. I hope you've been doing well in your trades today, and wish you all the best in those trades. And we will connect with you again for a week ahead update over the weekend.